Alice in Chains, Heaven Beside You. This is an alternate drop D method that I'm showing here. It's in case you don't want to do the, drop everything down a half step for the E flat tuning, which is kind of annoying. So here we just drop the one string and we can get it all just in recorded key. All right. Okay, simple drop D. And we'll start with the main riff here, and we were going to kick it off with this E flat note, of course. So it'll be 1 on the low D here. Then we'll come over and we'll bend that 4 on the middle D. Give it a little slow release. And then we'll come off to this A flat power chord basically. So we're just sliding up to 6s on the low D and the A. Okay, hit the 6A, low D, 6. And you want to hit it with this, ring finger here, because we're going to come off now this way, where we go 6, 4, 6 on the A. Then we do the 6, 4 on a low D. Come down and hit a couple of 4s on the A. Okay, playing around in that G flat now. All right, and that's the main riff. All right, and that carries on through the verse as well. And once we get to the verse, a second guitar comes in and does this cool little, pre-bent release riff where we're just doing 9 on the high E, 9 on the B, pre-bend that B a full step there and just release it. And just hold it like that. And that, reels off a good handful of times throughout the verse as well. Okay, we get a second little riff that happens in the intro and, again, in the pre-verse when it comes around again after the chorus and all that, where we'll be hanging out here with this high E, G, same fret, start on the 8 with bow strings, bring it up to 9, then we go 6s, slide back up to 8, and then we just reel it off the same style here where we go the 8s and then slide the 9s down to 8s. Okay, so it throws a little bit of a different thing in there. And then we slide the 6s to 8s. Okay, we do that a couple times. And then we finish it by doing the 8s, slide 9s to 8s to 6. Okay, so just playing around in that area with those little shapes. All right, we get a little bit of a solo in the intro here. It's got that kind of, twangy sitar kind of vibe to it. We'll start here by doing a G string here, 6 to 8 hammer on. Just kind of hold that a little bit. Drop down, we go 6G, 4D, bend a 6 on the D. Okay, keep it bent, hit it a couple times. Hit it, release it. Back off to 4. Drop down, we're going to go to the 1 on the low D. Do a 1 middle D, back to 1 low D. Slide that up to 4. Hang out here for a bit. We go 6A to 4. Hammer on this 4, 6, 4 on the A. Slide it down to 1. Quickly hit the 1 on the low D. And we just do a back and forth with the 4, 1, 4, 1. And then we come up high now to 11s on the G and the B. Then we'll bend 13s, release it, back off to 11s. And once the chorus comes along, we get the electric guitar and the acoustic guitar doing slightly different things. The electric just kind of keeps it, just straight up kind of normal major chord shapes here. So for the drop D here, it's an A flat, so we're just going to do 6s on the DAD, and the 8 on the G, 9 on a B. And the strum of it, you just kind of hit the bass notes really, then drop down and kind of hit the higher notes, hit them again, bass notes to higher notes. So it's like just something like that. Keep pretty loose, no big deal. Moves down to a G flat, so that same shape. We're going to keep this same shape for all these spots. We're down to a G flat at the 4s, and then we'll have the 6 and the 7. Same type of strum. Brings it up to the B at the 9th fret with the same shape. So we got 9s, 11, 12. And then just down a fret for 8s, the 10, and the 11. Okay, the B flat there. And it repeats that, about 3 times. And then it goes through it a 4th time, but at that B flat the last time, it splits the measure, where it'll start with the B flat at the 8s, and just do a couple beats of it, and then drops down to a D flat at the 4 on the A, 6 on the D, and the G. And it's just a quick bop bop, and transitioning into the bridge section. And like I said, the acoustics kind of doing a little more of a different voicings with those same kind of root chords, but it's kind of keeping this same, it's like a B flat and an E flat going throughout all these chords. Okay, so it starts in this A flat position, at the 6s, and it's just going to hit, those 6 on the D and A for the bass notes, and then, that B flat, E flat, which will be the 8s on the D and the G. And it's kind of the same strum as the other style. All right. And then it moves to the G flat at the 4, and we want that, B flat, E flat going. So to get that, we're going to do this shape. Kind of looks like a G chord shape or something like that. And, you can try to hit the 4 with the low D and the A just by, getting the pad of your middle finger like that. That's how I do it. And if that's a bit, too big of a deal, don't worry about that A. Just kind of mute it and just make sure you get this 4 bass note on the D going. So under that, we're going to want that 3G, 4B for that E flat, B flat going on. And same strum there. Okay. We got our 8s from the previous chord, but we're hitting it on the 3 and the 4 of the G and the B here. Right, then we move to a B major 7. Simple enough. So this shape here, our typical B major 7, 2 on the A, 4 D, 3 on the G, and our 4 on the B. All right. And we move to a B flat suspended 4 now, so we're just keeping that, 3G, 4B, and just bar 1 and 1 on the A and the D. So we're just keeping these notes throughout this whole thing. That's kind of what we want to do, and just shift the bass notes. And same as before, we would crank through that, 3 times, go mostly through the 4th time, and on those last couple counts, switch out the B flat suspended 4 just for some D flat 5 here. And the bridge section is where it can get a little tricky with this, drop D tuning, but it's fun to try new and interesting riffs here. So basically we're just kind of want this 4 on the D string here for that G flat. All right, and we're going to keep that throughout and just move some bass notes. So we'll start with this shape here. We've got the 5 on the low D, 2 on the A. We're just going to pick through it. D, A, D. Just like that a couple times. And this is like part of a G major 7 chord. And then we're just going to shift that D and A string up a fret, keep that 4. So we'll have to switch our shape here by bumping those up, just like that. But then instead of using the ring finger, we'll just hit that 4 with the middle finger on the middle D. So we got 6, 3, 4. So kind of a fun little arpeggio exercise in this position. So go through that a couple times. It's like an A flat 7. Move it up a fret again, keeping that 4 on the middle D, and it's part of an A6, where will be 7 low D, 4 A, 4 D, so we can make it a little easier now, where we just kind of bar the 4s with our index here, and then just keep that 7. All right, and finally we bump it up to the last spot, where, if you're really adventurous, you could, make that shape. If you don't have, big like monkey hands like me, then it could be a little easier to just drop down now and just do 1 A, open D to 4. I could try to keep it ringing a little better. That's the only drawback right there, is you don't get to ring out the note, that second note, unless you did it here, you know. That's a bit of a stretch. And for the second guitar during the bridge, it's a little easier. We're just kind of strumming out those bass notes, really, you know, where we have our 5 low D, 2 on the A. And we're just strumming that, you know, 8 times for a full measure. And then we just bump it up a fret to 6 and 3, 7 and 4. And you could keep going and keep it 8 and 5 if you want, or just drop down and do 1A open D. All right, we get this cool little interlude riff, and this is also the backing riff for the solo. It does a little intro to it real quick where we just slide up to 15A, give it some vibrato. Okay, a little something like that. But then it lands on the big E flat power chord at the ones here. Slide up to 6A, give it a little vibrato. And then we do a slow bend at 7 on the low D here. A little release. And then we do drop down for this riff, 4 on the low D, 1A, 4A. Move over, go 4 low D, open A to 4A. And then just repeat that a couple times. And finally just land on that big E flat and carry it through the next verse. The outro is a cool little riff here. We'll come up here to 8s. We go 8G, 8D. Drop down, hit 10 on the B. Once more. Go back to 8G and then 11B. 8G, 8D, 10B. 10B, 8G, 11G.